Oh man, that gets me every time. Hey, Dave Hunt here, owner of GameMasters Guild, and I gotta tell you, I love those alien movies. And as you can tell by my intro, it's inspired by Captain Dallas's crawl through the ventilation shafts where he's suddenly surprised by the alien. Oh man, and that's why I want to talk to you today, because I'm doing an RPG review about Alien by Free League Publishing. And this book, oh, let me tell you, I got some great things to say about this book. For starters, I just want to talk about the way the book looks. I mean, look at this thing. First of all, there's a ton of information in this book. This thing is thick. But what I'm most impressed about is the cover. Look at this cover. I like it because it's very simple, it's very plain, but that's a good thing. Sometimes plain isn't, but in this case, less is more. And with the Alien RPG, they get it right. I mean, look at this. You've got the xenomorph in the background, kind of hidden by shadow. You have the suited character, also hidden by shadow, but you can tell they're a little more in the foreground. And this could be anybody. It could be me, it could be you, it could be Captain Dallas, it could be Ripley. And what I like about this is this really gives you a sense of the survival horror that this game is about. And let's face it, that's exactly what all the Alien movies are. Essentially, they're survival horror. And I gotta tell you, this really emphasizes that. The darkness, the isolation, and I gotta tell you, in a horror game, especially a survival horror game, that's exactly what you want. And if you're playing this for something else, you're playing the wrong game. You're playing this for survival horror, and this has got it. I mean, look at this cover. I mean, it's beautiful. It is literally a work of art. You could have this just sitting on your coffee table, and people look at it like, what is that? Because the Alien franchise is so recognizable. Plus also, when you're holding it, I love the tactile sensation because it's smooth. It's actually kind of silky or almost velvety, but it just adds to the mystique of the book, I guess you could say, the quality of the book. And the binding seems pretty solid overall. And I gotta tell you, this book is, in one word, gorgeous. Now, let's see what's inside it, shall we? So now as we open up the front cover of the Alien RPG, we're greeted by this beautiful map of the Alien universe. I mean, this thing is great. It's super highly detailed. You can find Sol on this map. There's Forina 161, LV 426. Everybody wants to know where that's at. I mean, come on, man. Your players, they're going to want to go there, especially if they're Colonial Marines. And also, too, what's really nice is they have these 5 other factions that are colored throughout this map. Now, coming up next, after this gorgeous map, we are in for a treat, because as we flip through it, these pages are nice and glossy. Well laid out table of contents. And I gotta tell you, one thing I really like about this is this first page right before we get into it. Again, it shows the cover over here on this other side, and right here, space is hell, with a quote from Ash. I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies. I always loved that line. It just really made me feel sorry for the other characters that were left, because it's like there was no hope for them. As we get deeper into the Alien RPG, we can see that the text is very easy to read, and the information is presented in a clear and concise manner. It's not convoluted at all, and it looks really good. Plus, the biggest bonus of this book is the art. I mean, you don't get it every single page, but dare I say probably a third of the book is this beautiful art. And what I really like about this art is you don't get any screenshots from the movies. Some people probably miss out on that, and in a way, I kind of like screenshots from the movies. But this art is just so amazing. It really helps draw you into the world, and honestly, I think a screenshot from a movie would lessen the effect that this beautiful art has. And it really, from page to page to page, it gives you that sense of wonder and exploration, but also too, at the same time, it shows you the vastness of space and also the wonders and possible horrors that could be held within this whole Alien universe. And this art, I gotta tell you, this book, it's amazing. And that's one of the reasons why I love it. And also too, on the back, again, you have the map of the Alien universe. Oh, and I almost forgot. You even have the Weyland-Yutani logo on there. Gotta have that. Can't forget about Weyland-Yutani. All right, so let's look at some of the other things of the Alien RPG that are going to be important to us. In Alien, the person who runs the game is the GM, but in this game, you're the game mother. Now, in this game, inevitably your players will probably think you're a mother for some of the stuff you're about ready to throw at them, but hey, they're playing this universe. What do they expect, man? It's not a walk in the park. Game over, man! Game over! All right, so let's look at first the very beginning here. So, Chapter 1 talks all about how space is hell and really introduces you to the game. Tells you about your role as game mother. There are 4 main careers that your players can follow in this game. 1, the frontier colonists, like those poor folks at Hadley's Hope on LV-426. There's the space truckers, like Captain Dallas, Ripley, and the rest of the crew. There's the colonial marines, like Hicks, Hudson, Vasquez. And there's even the lovable company reps, like Burke, Carter, J. And what's nice about these 4 careers is there are some subclasses. And let's see, there's not too many. There's 9. And that's the colonial marine, the colonial marshal, the company agent, the kid, the medic, the officer, the pilot, the roughneck, and of course, the scientist. And I like that these careers and character classes are pretty limited because I feel like they really capture the main characters that live and work and inevitably die in the Alien universe. And I think these character classes are best suited for this universe. Anyone with psychic powers, it's just not going to fit. Anybody with incredible bionics, super strong, just not going to fit. This isn't a game about superheroes and supervillains. It's about average, everyday working people trying to make a living in the depths of space, which already is isolating and very dangerous. And then you mix in some xenomorphs, mix in some company politics and some backstabbing, some malfunctioning androids. You've got a very dangerous place to be where your characters could potentially have a very, very short lifespan. And man, that's what I love about this game. It's really capturing the mood, even just from these character classes here. It just makes me excited just talking about it. But enough on that. Let's get moving now. Let's look at some of the mechanics. I come to realize that you only need D6s. And probably need about 10 D6s each. Now, of course, they sell their own dice. A set of 10 base dice and a set of 10 stress dice. And what happens is with your character, in order to determine whether or not you're successful in something, you take your attribute score, you add it to your skill score. So let's say you have an attribute score in empathy of 4, and you have a skill, I don't know, let's just say a medical skill of 2. And that is a total of, when you add those together, that's a total skill of 6. And what you do is you take your base dice, you take that many base dice. So when you add those 2 numbers together, you get 6. You take 6 base dice, you roll them, and if you get a 6, then you get a success. If you roll multiple 6s, not only do you succeed, but you succeed in a big way. Some of the skills have what's called stunts. So for the extra 6s that you roll, it's quite possible that you might get to use some of these extra stunts and apply them to the situation. Now, the stress dice come into play when you start pushing yourself. Let's say you fail a skill roll and then you're like, I'm not happy with failure. I've got to push myself. And you push yourself and then you get a stress dice. And what happens is when you roll your base dice with the stress dice, if your stress dice come up as a 1, then it's possible that your character could panic. And there's a whole chart about what happens to your character. Anything from being, well, he's just a little sweaty, he's okay, he still fails, but everything's okay. Could be he drops something, could be he just freezes, or he's catatonic and he's babbling like an idiot in the back corner. I mean, then that's just a few of the examples that's on the panic chart. And I really like this idea because it helps disable the character in this survival horror universe. And I like that whole idea. And plus it's easier than just telling the players, hey, you're scared. Now mechanically, we've got a way to where they roll, they fail, they potentially panic, tells you what their character does in this failure situation, this panic situation. And That way it gives you something to work off of so you and your players can kind of role play out the situation about the panic and what's occurring and how that affects the scene as a whole and the characters as a whole. And I really like the idea of the stress dice. And I gotta admit, I'm a big D20 guy. I like rolling all the dice, but it's something about the humble D6, using it as a mechanic and keeping it simple, that makes this feel just so much cleaner. Another thing they say is that you only get one chance to succeed at something. Now, if you fail, and you push your roll and you still fail, then that's it. Either you can't do it anymore, or another character has to try. Basically what happens is you are at your wit's end, and you are at your limit for trying to figure something out. And then either someone else has to try, or you have to wait till circumstances substantially change. And they emphasize that in the book, which I kind of like. Also, too, there are ways to modify your successes and your failures. You can have group rolls, or certain circumstances may make things more difficult by subtracting your success dice, or making it easier by giving you more success dice, more base dice to roll, or perhaps adding stress dice. And of course, you can have a whole group try to tackle a problem, or you can even get help from others in a different way. And again, so you have some flexibility in how to resolve any skills you might have. Now, of course, combat, that's completely different. If you fail shooting at somebody or something, well, that's not a problem. You can definitely pick up your pulse rifle and keep shooting. Now, combat is something I haven't had a chance to do yet because the game's so new and I haven't had a chance to break in a group on this game. But so far, with how everything else is laid out in the book, especially the combat section, everything looks pretty easy to follow. Looks like you've got two different actions. Looks like a fast and slow action that you can take during the game, and these are actually shown on one of the pages, slow actions and fast actions, different things you can do. Talks about movement, and movement is done through zones, not necessarily like 1-inch squares like in a lot of games, but mostly just zones. Let's say you're in the med bay, then operations, storage. These are all different zones that your characters can explore. They also have something else called stealth. And by what stealth is, looks like enemies can either be active or passive. Active enemies are aware of you and are actively stalking you, where passive enemies are not aware of your presence and can be ambushed by you. So if you're coming to an area and you are searching the area, any passive enemies, since they're not aware of your presence, you automatically detect them and see where they're at. However, active enemies that are stalking you are unknown to you, and you have to make a roll to see if you could find those enemies. I think I'm kind of on the fence with the stealth mode. I like the idea of it because they're trying to convey, I think, that stalking of the alien predators versus the humans, which I do like that. And of course, there is a way for you to counter that with motion detectors, and they definitely encourage that in this. Still kind of out on that, but I think I like it. However, if you didn't, I could see very easily where you could modify that for sure by making it harder for you to get a success on detecting perhaps a xenomorph coming your way. With combat also too, there's a number of different things you can do. Close combat like ambush, sneak attacks, grappling, blocking, retreat, shoving. There's a lot of different things here that they have, and they go in depth on ranged combat. And when you get hurt, everybody has a certain level of health, and you can sustain critical injuries. And when you sustain critical injuries, you have to roll on a chart. And if you get a critical injury that results in your death, you have to make a stamina check. If you make a stamina check and fail, you're dead. That's it. You're done. And some of the critical injuries are pretty nasty, and there's a huge list of these critical injuries. Blood in eyes, crotch hit, broken nose, broken arm, and they're clear on the effects. Broken arm, can't use arm. Punctured lung, stamina mobility -2. Crushed skull, your story ends here. Pierced head, you die immediately. Impaled heart, your heart beats for the last time. I mean, this is rough. This is Alien, man. This is the world you're going to be playing in, and I like it. I like it a lot. One thing I don't think I'm terribly too crazy about with the combat is the initiative. And how they do initiative is they use playing cards, using the ace for 1, going all the way through 10, and basically you shuffle them up, and everybody draws, and whatever you draw, that's where you are within the initiative order. And that's not too bad. And if you were a GM, and you've got a lot of enemies, the book even recommends that you could break them up into smaller groups. So if I had 10 enemies, I could have 2 groups of 5 and draw 1 card for each. Although I think a lot of players, and I think a lot of GMs too, like to roll for initiative, so I could easily see that they might want to take just 2d6 and roll and just figure out their order from that. If you get ties, you just re-roll, or maybe take someone with a higher attribute score that's appropriate to the situation. But let's keep looking and see what else we can find. And even after all that, we're still not even to the section where they really talk about stress and panic, which is not a big section, but it's comprehensive, it's clear-cut, and it's easy to understand. And what I really like is, again, we're not even halfway through the book. Let's kind of speed through and see what else we've got. So, Chapter 5, let's see, looks like they're talking about combat and panic. They've got talk about other hazards, starving, being exhausted, vacuum of space, freezing, disease, explosions, falling. They've got it all covered. All the dangers are in this book for you. See, we'll move along a little bit more. Got vehicle combat in here. Gear. They got a nice section on gear. And this whole section right here, pretty thick on gear. I like it. It's a little smattering of everything, from weapons to vehicles. I mean, they've got the M41A pulse rifle, my personal favorite. They've got all sorts of different equipment. They'll have the APC. They've got the drop ship. Oh, there she is. Yeah. I mean, a little bit of everything again. Just enough to whet your appetite and to get you rolling and to get your imagination flowing. If you need anything else, it's pretty much easy to improvise on the spot if you need something. Let's see what else we have. Hard Life Amongst the Stars. What do we got? They talk about space combat. Talk about some of the different spaceships that you can find in the alien universe. Armaments. Deep space colonies. Space stations. I mean, they've really covered a little bit of everything. Let's go a little deeper in here. Let's see, where are we? Just now we're getting about halfway through the book. This book is about 390 pages. This thing is chock full of information. Another thing that I really like about role-playing games is when they examine their own themes within the book. Because sometimes when you read a role-playing game, sometimes things get lost in the mechanics and the character classes and the skills and the powers. They don't talk to you about what's important about the game and what makes the game special. And in this game, in Alien, they talk about the themes of space horror, sci-fi action, the sense of wonder, which all those things are definitely at the heart of Alien. And of course, stress and horror. They talk about fear of the unknown, loss of control, and horrible choices. As game mother, it is your responsibility to really pay attention to these 3 things, because this is what's going to set your alien role-playing game aside from any other action space adventure. It's not Star Trek, it's not Star Wars, it's not Battlestar Galactica. It's its own flavor. It's, again, survival horror in the depths of space, which is already dangerous. And a good GM really wants to pay attention to this. They also cover governments and corporations. And it's not just Weyland-Yutani, which I like. That way you've got a little extra variety. Something different, some things we haven't heard about. The 3-World Empire. Let's see what else we've got in here. United Americas. The Union of Progressive Peoples. Weyland-Yutani. And if you remember from the very beginning, we have the map. And we've got these organizations color-coded over the map of the alien universe. That way you can see their influence and see how they work into your game. This game definitely wouldn't be complete without an overview of systems and planets. So you can pretty much guarantee just about everything on that data map at the beginning of the book is going to be covered back here. Core systems, various worlds, histories. It's all right here. Even shows you, not only is it going to talk to you about the various systems, but it's going to give you a quick cutout section of the map so you can see approximately where these are instead of having to search that main map. And as we move on, again, we come to this gorgeous art just laid throughout this entire book. Again, it just draws you right in. Love it. That's just beautiful. It really is. And after this section, though, comes the section everyone's been waiting for, the alien species section, highlighting the xenomorph, everyone's favorite alien creature. As we go through here, it's going to talk about the engineers. It's going to review their technology. It's going to talk about the xenomorphs. It's going to give you all the rules that you need to play the xenomorphs, in addition to the different types that we've seen in the movies, from the neomorphs to the neophytes, various different xenomorphs that we've seen in the shows. There's going to be a size comparison chart. It's going to talk about the eggs, the face huggers. It's going to have specific rules for face hugger attacks. Yeah, this is nice. This is nice. Chest burster, scouts, drones, stalkers, soldier, workers, sentries. They've really added a lot of extra detail in this that you don't get to see in the movies. Also a Praetorian, a Crusher, and a Queen. All of them. I don't even know what a Praetorian is or a Crusher. Now, we're all familiar with the Alien Queen, but I don't know about these other two, and that's intriguing. I like it that they're changing up a little bit. They talk about the alien hive itself. Yeah, no, this is nice. This is nice. Oh, another thing I do like is they give a real small section, though, to just a few other extrasolar species. There's about 4 extra aliens they put in here. They're not specifically xenomorphs. They're just different aliens from different worlds. But it's nice because at least you get a little bit something different. So if you want to introduce some other alien, you don't have to homebrew anything. It's right here, like these harvesters, for instance, or possibly lion worms. Now, Alien has 2 different ways to play. They have the cinematic play, and they have campaign play. Now, campaign play is simply you make up your own characters and you play in the GM's world, either through a module the GM has purchased or through a homebrew game that the GM's come up with. Now, in their cinematic play, essentially, is the equivalent of a one-shot, where you have pre-made characters, you hand them out, and the players play those characters. Now, of course, with those pre-generated characters, the characters could easily move into a campaign with those characters, so you'd kind of have a blend of the cinematic play and the campaign play as well. But that's just how they like to define it right there. And speaking of your characters do gather XP, and it is at a much slower rate than a lot of other games. And I like that because your characters, they're already pretty well seasoned in their jobs and their positions, doing what they're doing. And in this game, they're already out there mining ore. They're already out there making colonies. They're already out there as colonial marines, keeping the peace and helping those in need, or the company reps doing their thing. And there's very little time to go out and improve yourself. But you do get XP, and you can increase your skills and your attributes, which is nice. And there is one final thing we have in this book, which is something I'm really glad they put in. They have a one-shot in here. They have an adventure already pre-made with NPCs. And I'm glad they did, because in that way, you kind of get a feel for how they want the game to be ran and what your characters should look like after you've made them up. And again, very, very nice. Again, very well laid out. The text is easy to read. Everything seems to be pretty easy to follow. Again, I haven't had a chance to actually sit down and play it yet, but I gotta tell you, there's even an index. That's great. Not only do you have a table of contents, but you also have an index. And I like that, because sometimes if I can't reference it in the table of contents, I like having the index handy. I really, really do. But again, I haven't had a chance to play this game in any shape or form yet. However, I'm very, very excited to do so. I hope maybe in the next month or so I can get one of my groups together and maybe we can start playing Alien, the role-playing game. Again, I gotta tell you, overall, I am super excited about this game. Now, my opinion might change later on once I've played this game, but so far, man, out of a 10, I'm thinking maybe like 8, 9. I'm rating it kind of high, just because I really love all the Alien movies, and this whole book is very stylish. It's very cool. It really emphasizes that survival horror aspect, and I gotta tell you, for $50, I think you get your money's worth out of it, because this is the only book you're going to need to play Alien, the role-playing game. And this thing is beautiful. I think the Alien RPG is really going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a great book. Definitely something you're going to want to get your hands on. And I got to tell you, if you wait too long, you're going to turn around one day and you're going to find out that this isn't even available anymore. I know it just came out, but if you wait too long, it's going to be gone. And I think if you miss your chance to get this book, you're going to regret it. I know I'm glad I got my copy now. And again, I think you're going to love it. Again, I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild. I'd like to thank you for watching my review of the Alien RPG. And in no way does Free League Publishing endorse my review. This is a completely independent review, and I'm just happy and excited to see an alien role-playing game. All right. So again, I want you to stay safe, play great games, and I'll see you real soon. And keep your pulse rifle handy. I want to thank Ulysses over at Snapkeep Videos for listening to all my questions and giving me some advice and really helping me to get my YouTube channel going. Also, too, he gave me quite a bit of help with this episode of my Alien RPG review. So again, thank you, Ulysses. Appreciate it. So if you get a chance, you should check him out.
Go ahead.
If you try again. 2, 1. Ah! Oh man. Okay, so what did I say before? Ah! Oh. So you can do even better things with that skill roll. Solution, ammo, watch cover. Okay, coup de grace. Okay. Because it's brand new and I haven't had time to the crew. The Colonial Marines like hits